Welcome to Madison City Channel's Know Your Candidates interviews, co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Dane County. I'm your interviewer, Marilyn Townsend, and I would like to introduce Tommy Rylander, running for the Dane County Supervisor position in District 12. As we begin, Mr. Rylander, I'd like you to give an opening statement as to the educational, vocational, and civic experience you have, which qualifies you for this office, and why you are running for the Dane County Board.
Well, thank you, Marilyn, and thank you to the Madison City Channel and the League of Women Voters for providing me with this opportunity. I'm Tommy Rylander. I'm a progressive, and I'm running for Dane County Board in the 12th District. My family and I have lived in the 12th for over 15 years. I have a history of public service and political activism through my years as a political organizer, legislative aide, and at the Wisconsin Department of Health Services. I'd like to serve as your progressive voice on the Dane County Board. I'm choosing to run for this office because it seems more and more like we are connected less and less to each other. I'm running because I want to know my neighbors, know what they need, and trying to help. Just a couple of weekends ago, I was starting to clean out the end of my driveway with a little shovel when out of nowhere, a man I had never met drove his truck with a plow on the front into my driveway and started clearing it off. That's what we need more of, little selfless acts of service. Over the last couple of months, I've been reaching out to local elected officials and asking them about the challenges we face in Dane County. I've spent hours talking to them about these issues, and the people I've met have me excited to join a deliberative body that, even when they disagree, truly has the best interests of the people of Dane County in their hearts. Over the next few months, I plan to walk through the district talking one-on-one with my neighbors about the issues that concern them most and asking what they demand of local government. I don't have a plow or a truck, but I can make my community stronger by doing this.
What do you view as the most significant budget issues facing the board, and how would you propose addressing them?
Thank you for that question. I think the number one spending issue facing Dane County is the jail. The Dane County Jail is, to my knowledge, the most expensive project the board has ever undertaken. Earlier this month, the county board voted to authorize $22 million more for the new jail, and the total cost is over $200 million. While everyone I've talked to agrees that the conditions in our current county jail are unsafe and inhumane, I'm not convinced that throwing money at a modernized 600 or 900 bed jail is the only solution to overcrowding and unsafe conditions. We need more tools in our toolbox than that. I've been assured by some that this vote will finally put the issue to bed, but the issue has been in front of the county board in one way or another for years now, and I will believe it's settled when I see it. Jail is sometimes the answer, but it has a weak history of leading to actual rehabilitation, and in some cases it does more harm than good. Dollar for dollar, our money would be better spent addressing the root causes of crime and recidivism rather than investing in a system that perpetuates harm. If we instead use that money to fund affordable housing, we could keep people from entering into a cycle of desperation and crime in the first place. Dane County has also undertaken a number of promising alternatives to incarceration that reduce our ballooning jail population while also improving outcomes. The Community Restorative Court, for instance, which focuses on healing the effects of crime while finding alternatives to incarceration. People in these programs have as much as a 32% lower recidivism rate than those who are put in jail. We need to get more buy-in from judges and other court officials to make sure that these and other alternatives to incarceration are used both more frequently and more equitably across racial and economic lines. So I would join those on the county board that are committed to making sure our jail is safe. But I would also make sure that our first financial commitment is to decreasing the disproportionate incarceration rates for people of color and explore alternatives to incarceration.
What do you see as the next right steps for the county to take in addressing mental illness and substance use disorders to divert people from the criminal justice system?
Sure. Well, I already touched on some of that. And my mom was a county social worker for many years. So I know the value that county workers can have in de-escalating mental health situations before they involve law enforcement. As I've mentioned previously, my preferred solution to overcrowding issues in Dane County Jail is to incarcerate less folks than we currently do. I'm enthusiastic about the county's support for the CARES program, which sends out a team of mental health professionals instead of police in response to certain 911 calls. This, along with a similar program of embedded mental health workers through the sheriff's office can avoid turning a mental health crisis into a legal crisis. I would support future efforts to expand those programs. Right now, they're not in every community, but to get them into more communities throughout the county. With regard to drug treatment, I hope the County Board Opioid Settlement Subcommittee is able to make strides with the $800,000 Dane County was allocated as a result of the lawsuit against opioid manufacturers. The drug death overdoses have increased by almost half, of 40-some% over the last decade, nearly entirely due to opioid use. These dollars came at the cost of lives, and I'm hopeful we can apply them in a meaningful way to combat an evolving public health crisis. I also support, as far as alternatives to incarceration are concerned, the drug treatment courts that offer treatment instead of jail time for those struggling with addiction issues. The county board needs to exercise the oversight necessary to ensure that this option is also applied more frequently and more fairly across racial lines.
How would you evaluate the county's current efforts to address homelessness? And are there any additional steps you believe the county should take to address this issue?
Sure. Addressing homelessness and poverty is the upstream solution to a whole host of downstream things, such as crime and mental health issues. Madison has always struggled with a lack of affordable housing, which is instrumental in preventing temporary setbacks from becoming long-term homelessness problems. While Madison has a lower poverty rate than Milwaukee, we have a higher rate of homelessness because the low-income individuals have so few options for low-cost housing. It was announced pretty recently that 2 low-income housing units on Madison's east side will be closing early this year. And those options are about to narrow significantly for low-income people seeking low-income housing. Something will have to be done to fill that void. Whatever solution we seek will have to be done responsibly. As we've seen with the Meadowlands development on Milwaukee Street, it's not enough to just build the housing. We also have to ensure that residents receive the support they need, and also that the development feels connected to the wider community through mixed-use neighborhoods and effective transportation options. Right here in the 12th, the county has been a significant partner in the Bartillion Drive homeless shelter, the first purpose-built homeless shelter. So not a church basement, but actually built to be a homeless shelter of its kind in Dane County. And I'm proud that so many selfless volunteers and public servants have worked to make that a reality here in my district. It's recently also been announced that they're working on a women's shelter, similarly purpose-built, and I expect the county board will be an instrumental partner in that success. While fully housing these individuals would be the ultimate goal, I'm in favor of housing first homelessness solutions. These shelters are important steps along the way out of homelessness and into economic stability.
Concerns continue about noise abatement related to the presence of F-15 fighter jets and PFAS pollution at the airport. What would you seek to do about these concerns if elected?
Well, I'm glad this one's on the interview. I'm glad everyone has to answer this one because this is in my district. It's of particular importance to the people in the 12th because this is happening right in our backyard. I can tell you that even though my house is over a mile from the airport, the noise from the jets is loud and disruptive. I saw a report recently that called the noise from F-35s incompatible with housing. And there's tons of houses that are a lot closer to that airport than mine are. Madison reaps the economic benefits from the National Guard base at Truax Field, but those benefits come at the cost of quality of life. I would fully fund and support noise mitigation efforts, such as seeking federal funding for replacement insulation or windows, altered flight paths, or acoustic means of deflecting the sound during takeoff and landing. I take very seriously the potential detrimental effects that such noise has on people, like interrupted sleep, hypertension, and anxiety. I am also deeply concerned with the PFAS issue that you mentioned, contamination around Dane County's airport and Truax Field. They're called forever chemicals because they're not going to break down during our lifetime. And they're still used today in the firefighting foam used by the National Guard at the airport. Then they wash away from the airport during storms, and they've seeped into our groundwater and waterways. It's my understanding that PFAS-free alternatives are in the work, but we still have a lot of ways to go before that's available. My family drinks from a well out here in Burke. I'm right on the edge of Madison. And we're avid kayakers on Dane County's waterways. Immediate action needs to be taken to remediate the soil and groundwater and clean up Starkweather Creek and all the surrounding systems. I support the members of the Dane County Board who recently voted to delay approval of a new joint use agreement between the county and the National Guard until language is removed from that agreement that essentially prevents the county from seeking damages for environmental contamination. We need to retain our ability to seek funding to clean up this mess from any possible source, including most of all those who made it.
What else, if anything, should Dane County be doing to address health disparities?
Sure. The health disparity gap, to my understanding, it has actually gone down in a number of states, but it has not gone down in Wisconsin. And we need to get to the root of why that is. I read that in Dane County, a Black baby is more likely to be born with low birth weight, and a Black adult is 4 times more likely to die from complications of diabetes than a white adult. I was glad to see that in the board's 2024 budget, the county board allocated funds to the Foundation for Black Women's Wellness. They have a program called Saving Our Babies. It's an initiative to uncover root causes and solutions to low birth weight babies born to Black mothers in Dane County. Babies with low birth weight have a higher incidence of infant mortality, cognitive issues, and inhibited growth later in life. Their study uncovered several root causes, including bias and discrimination in healthcare facilities, stress, and environmental factors for this phenomenon. The additional funds allocated by the board will help implement solutions to these issues. I guess government's at its best when it's filling in the gaps and making sure everyone has access to the same opportunities and quality of life, or at the very least, the same average length of life. We need to do whatever's in our power as a county board to address this issue and figure out what's causing it.
Please tell us about other priorities for the residents of your district that we have not yet addressed and how you would propose addressing them.
Sure, thanks. I touched on some of this, but I think environmental concerns are very important to people in my district. As I've already mentioned, our proximity to the airport comes with a whole host of pollution issues. And we're also minutes away from many of Dane County's most beautiful waterways, Lake Monona, Lake Mendota, Cherokee Marsh, Starkweather Creek. But the future of these waterways is going to require constant stewardship from the community around them. We need to continue to expand and support programs like Suck the Muck, which aims to remove dangerously high concentrations of phosphorus from Dane County's marshes and rivers before it reaches our lakes. Increased phosphorus levels can lead to the bright green toxic algae blooms that you see that choke off activities, close beaches, and they reduce oxygen in the water to levels that are dangerous for wildlife. We can also reduce these blooms and other contamination by sanding when possible, whenever salting our roads. And I know that the county has tried recently to use salt in as targeted a way as possible, and only on the occasions when it'll actually help. Like recently, it was too cold. So I think a lot more sand got used than salt. And we need to continue to fund dredging of choke points to improve the balance of water flow along the lake chain and prevent future flooding events. As it stands right now, sediment happens over time, but man-made sediments from, again, I guess, sand from plows and other man-made activities has made it so that if it rains an inch in Madison, it takes a week for that water to clear our system. And that's not even counting the water each spring from snowmelt. These problems will only continue to get worse as climate change creates permanent changes in our ecosystem, and we have to work as a board to do something about that.
What would you like to say to the viewing audience as we complete this interview?
Sure. In closing, I look forward to serving the people of Dane County in the 12th District. The work done by the board has the power to change lives for the better and preserve our most precious resources for generations to come. Dane County has always been a progressive beacon for others, and with your support, we can remain ahead of history on issues of equity, environmentalism, homelessness, and raising the voices of those who often get drowned out in the larger conversation. I look forward to all the opportunities I will have to speak with my constituents in the coming weeks and months, and I hope to earn your support for Dane County Board.
I want to thank Tommy Rylander.
That's right.
Rylander.
Like the city, but different. Yeah.
Yes, for speaking with us, and thank the viewing audience for taking the time to know your candidates. I want to remind everyone that the general election is Tuesday, April 2nd. Every election is important, so please vote. On behalf of Madison City Channel and the League of women voters of Dane County. Thank you for joining us.